This is the soul behind the curtain, a safe space where you don't have to perform, where we explore what's real beneath the patterns, beneath the roles, beneath the masks, beneath who you've been programmed to be. I'm Lulu, and here we shed the layers and learn to accept our truth. Imagine waking up tomorrow and every single problem in your life disappeared. Every person who hurt you apologizes. Every trauma gets explained. Every injustice is made right. Would your life automatically change? Or would you still wake up with the same habits, the same fears, the same identity? Sometimes, our biggest prison isn't what happened to us, it's who we've become because of it. There comes a moment in every healing journey where blaming your past is no longer enough. Not because your past didn't hurt you, it did. Not because people didn't fail you, they might have. But because from this moment onward, every day you continue living inside an identity someone else handed you is a day you choose not to write your own. Accountability begins the moment you stop asking, "Who made me this way?" and start asking, "Who do I want to become now?" We've all had our fair share of trauma in our lives. We've all experienced pain and injustice. To understand the state of being a victim, it is essential to first look at how the human brain processes this pain, injustice, hurt, and trauma. When we experience harm, our brain enters a state of survival. We experience loss of control because the trauma or the mistreatment shatters our assumption of safety, which creates a deep psychological shock because humans crave predictability and agency. We also experience cognitive dissonance, which is a conflict between how you believe the world should work fairly and how it actually treated you. This leaves us searching for meaning or blaming ourselves to regain a sense of order or control. Our nervous system stays on high alert. The brain's threat detector, which is referred to as the amygdala, becomes overactive, making us constantly look out for the next threat. Taking ownership, acknowledging the mistakes, shedding our ego, and recognizing when we are wrong is part of this process. We can't control what happened to us. We can only control what happens next. We should accept that regardless of what happens to us in life, we are the ultimate driver of how we respond or what we do next. There's a difference between being a victim and staying in the state of victimhood. Victimhood or victim mentality happens when a person consistently believes that their problems are the result of external factors, such as other people, bad luck, or systematic unfairness. People operating in this mindset feel powerless and they rely heavily on making excuses, complaining, and assigning blame. While this mindset can ironically feel safe because it absolves the individual of blame, it ultimately strips them from their personal power. By waiting for others or the world to change, they remain stuck in feelings of helplessness, resentment, and frustration. Severe learned helplessness manifests as a permanent state of psychological confinement. When a horse is repeatedly restrained to the same pole every single day, they experience severe learned helplessness, which manifests as a permanent state of psychological confinement. When a horse is starved for an excessively long period of time, their entire mental reality shifts from being an active desire for freedom to total and passive resignation. Even when the physical rope is entirely removed, The mental rope remains tightly bound, and they never make the escape. This is similar to a bird in a cage. If a bird spends all its life in its cage, the moment that the cage door opens, they don't fly out. This analogy applies perfectly and is a very similar description to victim mentality. You might ask me, what would a person gain from staying a victim or being in the victim mentality? This is fascinating. The subconscious sometimes protects symptoms, not because it enjoys suffering, because suffering has become familiar. Maybe it receives attention, maybe it avoids rejection, maybe responsibility feels terrifying. And let me make something clear. Accountability isn't blame. Before we continue, I need to inform you that if someone abused you, betrayed you, abandoned you, humiliated you, this is not your fault. Healing is your responsibility. Not because you caused the wound, because you're the only one who can rebuild what was damaged. There's a huge difference. I wonder how many of you listening to me are interested in Greek mythology. I wonder if you read Homer's Odyssey or you watched a version by Christopher Nolan in the cinemas. And even if you didn't, I will definitely be explaining this to you. Some things really caught my attention from the story, and I will be able to relate them to victimhood. The Odyssey is about a famous ancient king in Greek mythology who's a smart king that spent 10 years trying to get home after fighting in the 10-year Trojan War. His long journey is filled with dangerous monsters, magical islands, and an angry sea god. After winning, he and his men sailed ships towards home. But his pride, rude actions angered Poseidon, the god of the sea. During his journey home, Odysseus lands on the island of the Lotus Eaters. I will explain that in a bit. After Odysseus sends 3 of his men to investigate, the locals offer them the lotus. The scouts immediately succumb to its effects and forget about returning to their ships. Odysseus is forced to hunt them down, drag them back to the vessels by force, and tie them to the rowing benches to prevent them from eating more and abandoning the crew. In the version by Christopher Nolan, which carries a lot of psychological symbolism for me, Odysseus ends up on this island alone. He wakes up forgetting everything that he is, who he was, who he will ever be, why he was returning home. Before I continue, I want to explain the effects of the lotus flower. In Greek mythology, the lotus is known for its intoxicating narcotic properties. It induces forgetfulness and apathy. The fruit and flowers of the lotus act as a powerful addictive narcotic. Anyone who eats the honey-sweet lotus immediately loses all their memory of their past, their homes, and their goals. It also destroys the will to return. Those who consume the plant are overcome by a blissful oblivion. They no longer wish to continue their journey, desiring only to stay on the island, relax, and eat more lotus. Metaphorically, eating the lotus came to mean giving into escapism, addiction, and a loss of ambition. Odysseus arrives on the island and spends 7 years eating the lotus. The lotus doesn't poison him. It doesn't kill him. It doesn't make him violent. It makes him forget. Forget home, forget purpose, forget the journey, forget why he started. He becomes comfortable, so comfortable that he spent 7 years in this oblivion. I think victimhood can become a lotus flower. Not because pain isn't real, not because trauma isn't real, but because sometimes remaining inside our pain begins to feel safer than risking healing. Healing asks us to move. Victimhood says, stay. That's why there's a huge distinction between pain and identity. Pain is an experience. Victimhood is an identity. One already happened, cannot be changed, and the other can become something we continue rehearsing. And if we rehearse so much, it becomes who we are. Remaining inside the identity built entirely around pain can become strangely comforting. It removes uncertainty and responsibility. It removes the possibility of failure. If I remain the victim forever, I never have to ask, now what? That's the terrifying question. Healing asks us to answer it. Victimhood says, stay here, at least it's familiar. The lotus flower didn't kill him, but it stole something much more precious than his life. It stole his future, it stole his purpose, and most importantly, it stole his time. Part of playing the victim lives deeply in people pleasing. People pleasing isn't kindness, it's fear. It's fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of conflict, and fear of guilt. Fear of not being enough. If every relationship leaves you exhausted, who keeps saying yes? Without shame, just awareness. Every yes to someone else is a no to yourself. I have a lot of clients telling me, my boss keeps demanding things from me and I can't say no. I ask them, is this part of your job description? And they say no. People come to me telling me about their relationships, telling me that I have gone above and beyond for the other person. And the other person keeps saying, I'm not asking for this. And I ask them, did they ask for this? And they say no. A mom believing she is going above and beyond for her children, doing everything, doing their laundry, cooking for them, making sure that the home feels like a safe space for them. And one day, one of her kids says, don't count me in for today's lunch. I'm eating outside. But she does make him the lunch, and then he comes back and she gets mad that he ate outside and that he's not eating her lunch. I ask her, didn't he tell you? And she says, yes. Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? We inflict ourselves with so much blame over the action of someone else that is not our business. When your manager asks you to do something that's outside of your job description, you can say no. When you're in a relationship with someone and they ask you to do something that's outside of your boundaries or crosses your limitations, you can say no. When your kid tells you that they're gonna have lunch outside today, you don't have to cook for them. These things exist outside of your responsibility frame. Don't assign yourself extra responsibilities, then shift the blame to someone else when they do not comply with your standards. Don't call yourself the victim when you are choosing to do these things for yourself. No, correction to yourself. Since I've mentioned the Odyssey, I would like to talk about another scene that really fascinated me that I can connect to this. The sirens. What are sirens? Sirens are mythical creatures that are depicted as half woman, half bird, sometimes half woman, half mermaid, who lure sailors to their death using an irresistible hypnotic song. In many myths, they were simply carnivorous predators, and their enchanting music was a trap designed to make men lose their reasoning and either steer their ships into treacherous rocky shores or jump overboard to their death. The sirens would then devour the survivors. In the story of the Odyssey, at least the one depicted by Christopher Nolan, it shows us that Odysseus himself, driven by his famous insatiable curiosity, desperately wanted to hear the Sirens Song himself and live to tell the tale, to be the only man who does. He instructed the men to bind him by his hands and his feet. and commanded them that no matter how much he might plead, beg, or order them to untie him, they need not to. They must ignore him and bind him with even more ropes. He also instructed his rowing crew to plug their ears tightly with beeswax so they would be completely deaf to the deadly music. While the ship passed by the rocks where the sirens laid, Odysseus started screaming in agony. He was unable to believe what he was listening to. One of his crew members saw that, and out of curiosity, he unplugged the earwax, which led him to his demise as he swam headfirst into the siren's lair. The man removed the wax himself. Nobody forced him. The sirens didn't climb onto the ship. They never touched him. He removed the wax. We tend to blame the ocean when we are the ones who unplug the wax from our ears. Imagine someone knows every relationship drains them. Everyone tells them, protect yourself, but they don't. They continue answering every phone call, every text, every emotional emergency. Eventually, they're exhausted. Now, is that exhaustion their fault? Was the other person behaving selfishly? Maybe. But who keeps removing the wax? Who keeps rowing towards the island? Who keeps ignoring the warning signs? That's where our responsibility begins. Indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a person until they change what is within themselves. This is derived straight from the Quran. This verse establishes a core principle of divine justice and human responsibility. It highlights that both positive blessings and hardships are directly connected to our actions, attitudes, and intentions. We cannot simply wait for our circumstances, relationships, or communities to improve without making an active, conscious effort. Whether it is peace, success, or well being, it must begin with internal reform, changing our habits, our mindset, our faith. If a community is living in goodness and abandons it for sin and ingratitude, their condition will change for the worse. Conversely, if a person is struggling but strives towards righteousness and self improvement, Allah will alter their condition for the better. Allah isn't saying, I'm refusing you. He's saying, I've already placed the capacity for change inside you. Most people think that sirens sing one beautiful song, but that's not how it is. Every person hears something different. They don't sing a song, they sing your song. They don't tempt you with what someone else wants. They tempt you with what you cannot let go of and what you cannot have. For one sailor, the song might sound like, she'll finally love you. For another, you're a man and you can finally prove yourself. For another, I wish you didn't let go. And for another, you'll finally feel enough. The sirens don't create desire, they expose it. That is psychologically fascinating because temptation is almost always personalized. Shaitan doesn't whisper the same thing to everyone. He whispers the thing you are most vulnerable to hearing. Maybe the sirens don't lie. Maybe they simply project the deepest longing you've refused to look at. And that is exactly why they're dangerous. Because truth without wisdom will destroy you. Shaitan doesn't usually walk through the front door. He waits for you to open it. Not because he's stronger than you, because he understands your fears better than you do. He knows which song you'll stop rowing for. It rarely starts with a sin. The shaitan doesn't whisper, go commit adultery. He whispers, you're lonely. Then go text them. Later, go meet them. Then stay longer. Cross another line until you cross the final line. He works through emotions, not commandments. Exactly like our work in CBT. It's thought and then feeling and then behavior and then habit and then identity. It becomes who you are. It doesn't say go cheat, go drink, go destroy yourself. It whispers instead, you're tired. Just skip today. You deserve it. You're worthless anyway. Nobody appreciates you. Look what they did. Compare yourself. Be distracted. Become dependent. Then compromise. Then sin. The fall happens gradually. This goes hand in hand with energy, people pleasing, predatory personalities. Look, I'm not saying everyone's evil, but unhealthy people naturally test weak boundaries. We teach people how to treat us, not because abuse is deserved, but because boundaries communicate what continues. We are unconsciously inviting the wrong people to enter our energy field. Let's imagine that every person carries an invisible field. It's not necessarily something science can currently measure, but something every one of us has felt. Some people enter a room and you instantly feel safe. Others, you become tense. Now imagine that this field has colors: red, orange, green. The more regulated, the more spiritually grounded, the stronger the boundary, the heavier the color. Let's think about this as a sort of energy field or a bubble surrounding us. When we're dysregulated, everything can penetrate it: criticism, manipulation, temptation, fear. However, when regulated, those same things hit your boundary instead of your identity. Every morning, we ask Allah to protect us from in front of us, behind us, our right, our left, and from beneath us. We say, اللهم احفظني من بين يدي ومن خلفي وعن يميني وعن شمالي ومن فوقي وأعوذ بعظمتك أن أغتال من تحتي. What if this isn't only physical protection? What if it's also psychological? A daily act of strengthening the boundaries of the self. I'm sharing this as the way I personally think about it, not as an established scientific fact. This is a theory I've been thinking about for the past few months. Each human carries an energy field, emotions. We start from rock bottom, connecting it to the emotions of shame and guilt and pain, and we can go all the way up to healing, abundance, and peace. Some feelings exist in the middle, like anger, anticipation, joy. Now let's assign color to all these feelings. I would say red is the color of fear and shame, while orange is the color of boredom and anger and joy. And green is acceptance, trust, and abundance. After experiencing a lot of trauma, my aura will turn red, full of fear, disgust, shame, and anguish. If I don't do the proper work, I will stay in the red aura. Humans would be able to detect that, whether consciously or subconsciously. The shaitan will be able to penetrate that using fear, anxiety, and shame against me. But let's say I put in some work. Not consistently, but I do work on myself. Gradually, day by day, my aura will turn orange. This is me Drawing a harsher boundary, still not enough, but I am doing the work. People who used to see the red aura will feel a bit distant from you now, but not entirely. Also, the shaitan will be able to see the difference from the aura turning red to orange, meaning that you are setting some boundaries, and it starts hurrying up and trying to use all your fears and negative energy against you. It tries to pull you back to red. That's why when we start making visible change, things start falling apart. This is one of the reasons. People start asking for more as a last resort. The shaitan starts seducing you more as a last resort. And it can either bring you back to red based on your actions and your behavior, or you can take yourself and step up to green. And this is where trust, abundance, happiness, and acceptance live. If I am constantly telling myself that I am doing better, if I am doing the work, if I am reading my adhkar, if I am protecting myself with these du'as, then I am basically coloring my bubble green, refusing to let anyone cross my threshold. Not a single person who sees me now can ask me for anything. If anything, they will ask for my permission in things. Opportunities will start coming to me because I'm respecting myself. I am respecting my boundaries. You know something? The shaitan would even stop bothering coming to you because it can see that you are divinely protected. And this is where you can finally reach that level of self love, self respect, and self protection. This is where healing can start to happen. Not because I've reached this level means that I'm done. I have to keep working really hard to keep the green bubble, to not allow anyone to step into it. Because even if I work on it for 10,000 days, if I don't continue working on it for the next 10 days, a little by little, it can go back to orange. And then a little by little, it can go back to red. And that doesn't mean the end, because you can always go back to green. But it takes constant effort from you to keep trying, to keep remembering. Each time I started a new venture or did something to improve my life, I would notice that the support doesn't instantly come from those who are closest to me. And that's okay now, but at some point, I made it my identity. Then I picked myself up and I did the work. If I tell myself that my family doesn't care about me, I am genuinely reprogramming my brain to believe that I don't deserve love. But if I say that these people are just not really used to this version of me, they are not seeing this part of me the way that strangers are because they have just met me. Because I make my own value. I feel like Ramses II's statue standing in an Egyptian street. People pass and ignore me and don't acknowledge. Now, knowing that I will reach where I should be, that I will reach my potential, I'm gonna turn into him being moved to the Egyptian museum. I will become a statue where people fly from all over the world just to take pictures of me with. I just happen to be in the wrong place. I am the right person. I'm doing what I can. These things don't change the reality of the abundance I believe I deserve and the work that I'm putting in myself. This doesn't mean that I see myself as better than everyone. The value of the statue didn't suddenly increase when it moved. Its surroundings changed. People encounter it differently now. An extraordinary work of art can become part of the background if people pass it every day. But move it into a place where people intentionally come to look at it, then you'll see change. And that's how I see myself. Instead of putting myself in the victim mentality, where I ask myself, why are these people not supporting me? I tell myself, the right people will find me. I think the deeper version of this metaphor is that sometimes we're not unseen because we lack value. We're unsure because we've become part of someone else's landscape. We tie our identity to how people see us or what they believe of us. I have never set my mind on anything that I couldn't accomplish. And this is not something I'm bragging about. This is something that I'm saying came from hard work and excessive investing in myself. That doesn't mean all my days were good. Most of my time was spent in the red bubble. It took me a lot of time to get to the orange. And now that I'm in the green, I find that sometimes I allow the doubt to seep into my mind. And it's because I'm not continuing. Being consistent takes a lot of work, and that's what I'm trying to do every single day. I have already assumed the mentality of the person who has everything that I want. I have molded myself and structured my identity to become the version of myself who is already a billionaire, who has the penthouse duplex, who has the G and the Porsche, and whatever I desire, who lives a soft life in luxury. I am the version of me that is loved, that is worthy of everything. I am the version of me that is enough. I am divine in my core, and I attract all that is good for me. Every day, I say I'm going to experience a miracle, and every day I do. I am alive, and everyone I love is healthy and well. I have set the intention, and I don't ask the why, the how, the what. It does not matter to me. It is already done. And I invite you all to assume whatever version of you you feel is the best version of yourself. It's time for us to be who we want to be. Don't wait for things to happen to you. Go ahead and grab them. I let myself experience the luxury and the softness of life. I let myself have a slow morning and take it easy. I am preparing myself to receive everything that I desire, and I will. This is how much trust I have in Allah and how much trust I have in myself. And Allah has put all these mountains in front of me so I can show others that I can remove them. And so can you. At some point in your life, you have to sit down and consciously unlearn everything other people taught you about yourself through their own fears, projections, limitations, and wounds. There are many things we can learn from today's episode, but the most important one I want you to go home with today is that you are responsible for your life. You are not the victim of the circumstances. You can change that. What happened to you does not change your pain. What happened to you does not erase the memory of how horrible it went. But it's your decision to fix that about yourself. Take accountability. Take responsibility over your life. Today, we learned that Odysseus took the lotus, ate it for 7 years, and it made him forget. Dhikr makes us remember. The sirens sing to the wounds of the soldiers. Healing changes the song that we hear. The wax represents boundaries. People pleasing removes it. Maybe freedom isn't waiting for the world to stop hurting you. Maybe freedom is remembering who you are before the world tells you who to become. Because the day you remember is the day you stop drifting. Every single time you catch yourself saying, "They made me," "They ruined me," "I can't because," pause, ask, what part of this belongs to me? Not all of it, just my part. Because that's where freedom begins. Don't eat the lotus. Find your way back. Thank you for stepping behind the curtain with me today. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who's learning to trust the process of becoming. Until next time, keep questioning your patterns, keep embracing the truth, and keep listening to the soul beneath it all.